Good day. Uh, this is going to be a split podcast. There are things that are emerging in technology that are really very exciting. I'm going to discuss some of those. And then at about the midway point, I'm going to break to have a different discussion. But let's start with the science. Things are hopping in several fields. The estimate on a time for a fully operating fusion reactor has been reduced from 2040 at best to 2025 almost certainly by the creation of superconducting magnets that can put out a level of power that is sufficient to bottle the energy sources they're using in fusion. A field multiple times the normal magnetic field of the Earth, multiple Teslas more, was generated for 25 minutes, and everyone in the scientific world is convinced that this will lead to fusion much quicker than we expected. At the same time, we have figured out the mechanism by which a particular microorganism can consume radiation. We have figured out how it translates the radiation into nourishment for itself. And that, I think, is very promising as a method of cleaning up old nuclear waste. In the medical field, a number of fairly new developments. A universal hepatitis C treatment. And of course, as you know, hepatitis C has, until very recently, been the deadliest form of hepatitis because it could not effectively be treated. Now there's a universal treatment. A treatment that may prevent or cure sickle cell anemia and related diseases of the blood, which are deadly for many people or have been historically. We are seeing, far just beyond COVID, we're seeing many, many, many new developments in medicine. And of course, some of the new developments in COVID, additional vaccines in India, more and more understanding of a broad-scale antiviral treatment. These things are incredibly important, not only for COVID, but going forward for all forms of virus and viral infection. So overall, I would say the last few weeks have been incredibly exciting in the world of technology. We have also now recognized 27 planets, extrasolar planets, planets outside of the solar system, from whence we could have been observed as we developed into our present 0.75 Kardashev society. On the other topics, many of you, I'm sure, recall when Barack Obama was president and he proposed Obamacare, and the Republicans and the right-wing media and much of the centrist media and even some of the liberal media started talking about death panels. There were going to be these panels of bureaucrats who looked at people and determined their social productivity and decided whether they would live or die if they were sick. And you probably remember elected Republicans talking about how what would happen if there was a pandemic. You know, Democrats would surely turn to the blah, 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 blah. You heard it all. And now we have a pandemic. Democratic states have struggled in every possible way to save every life they could. Universally, across the country, regardless of insurance, they've tried. And now, this week, Idaho, one of the most consistently Republican states in the Union, where the Republicans control all branches of government, without so much as a whimper announced that until the duration of the pandemic was ended, hospitals would determine the likelihood of survival and et cetera, and et cetera, and et cetera, in order to allocate bed space. Some people would be turned away, and some people would be given palliative care and allowed to die. So a totally Republican state has established death panels. It is always projection. I become increasingly convinced. They have established death panels without so much as one protestation, not one protestation from one of the Republicans who hypothesized that Obama would have death panels. Not one anything. The right-wing media says nothing about this. It is reported factually and ignored in the rest of the media. And the politicians, the same politicians who created a panic among many moderates, screaming about how there would be death panels, when no such thing was ever in the bill proposed, mentioned, or thought of by the Democrats. Not one of them has condemned the formation of actual death panels in a Republican state. Sisters and brothers, and we are all sisters and brothers in consciousness, in humanity, in labor. Sisters and brothers, we have to wake up, all of us. I have watched this for years. Those who have known me for a long time know I started on the right and I kept moving left. And I kept moving left because I saw something that many people spend a great deal of time denying, which is that the left was a lot more honest with its people than the right. If this had been a democratic state establishing death panels, you would not have just heard it from the Republicans, you would have heard it from the Democrats. And if you are at all honest with yourself, you know it. When it's a Republican state, not a peep. We can do better. We should do better, not just for political reasons. In fact, those almost don't matter. We are one in our consciousness, in our humanity, and we need to act like it. And again, those who've known me a long time know I have spent my life trying to model that behavior, because I believe that that is the behavior we should show. And I ask others to get on board. Stop listening to the media. Stop pretending we can do research that the scientists can't. Recognize who your actual enemies are by their actions. Words don't matter. And act accordingly. I told you it would be 2 parts. It is. I don't know how many of those there are going to be, but I really want to cover the technology things, but at the same time, I can't not cover some of this other stuff, and I've given up trying to cover it in an apolitical fashion. I can't. I was over there, I'm over here now. I know the strengths and weaknesses of both sides, and the things that are happening now are unconscionable and unacceptable.